Communities don't. So it's a matter of bringing equity to people. And then finally, we say, bring some leveling, let's try to level the playing field for small business. If we then use the resources available in the development banks to structure a program around on lending to small and micro businesses, give them the mechanism to upgrade their own internal capacity.
Rabble show, I got chat to them, I made them chat for it. Rabble, you don't know, say the one and only National Rabble Danger, and on this platform we do things different.
The report really seeks to address systematically and in a highly focused and sharply structured way key problems dealing with removing the constraints that affect business activity, getting the economy moving again through essentially loosening the constraints that affect the holding of land, the transfer of loans across various banks, and the issue of, for instance, the way land transfers are regulated and controlled. And by attacking those problems, we say you can get immediately a freeing up of idle assets that extend from land to buildings. The city of Kingston, for instance, has a vast amount of abandoned buildings which can be mobilized for being brought into production. And on top of that, you have financial assets that have been released as a result of the Jamaica debt exchange, which has effectively loosened the interest rates and made it possible for firms now to seek to find ways of investing their liquid assets. All of these things come together, we argue, as a timely and strategic moment when, if the government were to proceed with the proposals that we have made here in this strategy, then you could get an immediate impact in terms of restoring confidence, establishing a sense of direction and of structure in the way the economic program is being run, and in that way you get an impetus for expansion, and on the strength of those initial efforts you can then build a platform for long-term growth. There's a package of programs which essentially have to do with, first of all, infrastructure, roads, repairing of the roads, building of the gullies, attacking all of the infrastructural weaknesses that show up in terms of heavy costs incurred by the country when we have weather shocks, whether they be wind, hurricane, floods, whatever. All of those natural and man-made conditions make a big difference in terms of costs the country has to pay for repairing them. We say use the opportunity that's presented by the existence of the Jamaica infrastructure program to pump some funds into repairing those facilities, and in that way you kill two birds with one stone. We get the effect of making the infrastructure more resilient in the sense of being able to withstand shocks, and at the same time you create jobs. So that's one issue. And upfront, if you systematically organize the infrastructure repair and renewal program and jumpstart all of those activities right away in this first year, then you get an immediate effect. On top of that, we say, let's organize a community renewal program and pump some funds into that. We've already established at the PIOJ a secretariat that's going to undertake the organizational and the coordination work involved, and pump some funds into building up the base in 100 targeted communities around the country. So we're not focusing only on Kingston, we're going all through the country. We've already identified where those communities are, and then bring to those communities means for their upliftment and for essentially providing them with support for their own creativity and for their own energy, for their own entrepreneurial abilities. Give them an opportunity then to express themselves in those various ways by attacking the problem of deficient resources, deficient infrastructure, toilets, for instance, showers in those communities, organize training programs, educational programs, and in that way systematically address the problems of volatile communities which have a latent possibility of engaging in criminal activity. And this is the one way then in which you could address the crime problem. We don't believe that community renewal is crime reduction. We believe community renewal is an issue of uplifting these communities and giving them a really solid basis to develop an organic independence, self-agency, and of course equity, because the privileged communities in the country have those capacities and those resources, those facilities, but these other communities don't. So it's a matter of bringing equity to people. And then finally, we say, bring some leveling, let's try to level the playing field for small business. If we then use the resources available in the development banks to structure a program around on lending to small and micro businesses, give them the mechanism to upgrade their own internal capacities in terms of business plans, accounting, financial planning, technical expertise, and by the way, a marvelous instrument exists for doing that with the Jamaica Business Development Council, which is a well-organized unit within the statutory bodies. Let's get the JBDC, the DBJ, and a whole lot of other private sector companies engaging in microfinance. Let's get them mobilized to identify projects. We're not asking them to give away money. We're not asking them either to subsidize or to reduce their interest rates below their cost. We're saying do a business scan of all of the small business projects that are available out there. Invite the small operators to come in with their proposals. You will find in that a really viable bunch of projects, and use the opportunity then to jumpstart the economy by providing a kind of stimulus to the small business sector. Right. If you do all of those things, we say, you'll get, at the bottom line, Al, a 1.58% addition to the growth. We're starting already from negative growth. Yes. So we're saying if you add that, you'll get some positive growth. But if in addition to those things I've just described, you also do the kinds of things that we describe as essentially loosening up the economy at the level at which it counts, namely the point at which business firms face high costs and charges by government in terms of stamp duties, etc., which then inhibit the free flow of loans from banks to banks. It inhibits the ability to deal with probate of land. It inhibits the ability of firms to access finance. All of these things, if you attack them in a forthright way, by what we call a process of essentially unleashing private capital, unleashing the dynamism of private capital through liberating latently available but idle assets. One striking example of that, which you will find, I think, very interesting and important, is we talked with Mr. Lynch, who is the technical expert over in the Ministry of Tourism.
Yes, John Lynch.
John Lynch.
Yes.
John is a good buddy of mine, way back. John tells us, and I have every reason to believe that he's right, that of the 30,000 rooms in the hotel available in the hotel industry, 16,500 are below the quality required, for which is more than a third, more than half. Below the quality required for high level tourist visitors, etc. Not super rich, etc. But middle level quality issues these hotels face. Well, we say this is a ready-made opportunity through refurbishing of these hotels, through providing the kinds of programs that would allow that to happen, and the Minister of Tourism is actively engaged in doing that right now. He has, for instance, a program of on-lending to small business, which are essentially small hotels. Yeah. If you do that, this is a 16,500 rooms, which, if you add that to the mix, means that you could tremendously expand the uptake of tourism in the coming year. So these are the kinds of practical things which we think are critical, and which, if done right, and if done smartly, and if done with a certain with a certain integrated framework of action, rather than just one-shot things at a time. If you do that, and then you sequence them properly over the 3-year period, build them into the expenditure program of the government, so you know in advance what's going to happen. In that way, you will address the issue of lack of business confidence first and foremost, and we detect that there's some lack of confidence out there right now. In addition, you will give some assurance that there's continuity. So people won't say, well, look, this is just a one-year thing. There's nothing in it really to make long-term plans on. And when all of that is done properly, we say that's the way to get the thing started, create the platform, and then you can build on that for long-term growth.
Rabble, no fear for tell them, say you hear it, so remember to like, share, and subscribe. Straight Rabble.